So, welcome to the Arkopia show. This will be episode number 2. And on today's topic, I want to discuss saving money getting set up. Like everything getting more expensive. We've had the inflation. It's manifesting itself into the prices of everything. And if you're not set up yet, or in the midst of getting set up, or thinking about getting set up, or at the tail end of getting set up, I want to give you some tips on how I save money. So I'm a frugal guy. I always have been. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I've built many new houses with my hands, from the bottom up, brand new. So I have very good construction skills. Beginner mechanic. I can weld a little bit. I'm kind of a multifaceted person because I'm hands-on and I do things myself. So I change my own oil, do my own maintenance on vehicles. I will build my own things, repair my own things, do my own yard work. I'm the type of person that would buy a piece of equipment or a tool and then, learn how to do it, or I'll spend the money up front on tools. Like for my truck, for instance, I have every specialized wrench to get into the differentials, special sockets for it. There's specialized tools, for certain things, and I'm a do-it-yourselfer type of person. And I guess most of the stuff I'm going to talk about is about setting up kind of your main homestead, maybe, for saving money. But so you don't have to be a millionaire to get set up. You do need a little bit of capital. So to purchase bare land is difficult. No banks want to lend on bare land, especially agriculture land. So it's difficult or impossible to get financing. So I had to, accumulate capital and got out of my, some of my real estate and put it into our homestead. But it's not too late. I see deals all the time on pieces of property, on land. We're getting closer by the day to things getting worse, and inflation's already is here now. I tried to do things ahead of the manifestation from the free gimmies, the quantitative easing, the welfare, the handouts, aka inflation, and then the consequences of that. So I did worked hard and worked long, and attempted to get as much done as I possibly could. And I've heard people in my life tell me, "Oh, do you wish you would have taken more time? Do you have any regrets? Like, you wish you went fishing more? Do you wish you went on trips more, traveling more?" No, my regret is that I didn't even work even harder. Because as I get older, I can feel my body and my energy is already, like, I'm not even that old yet, but I wish I worked even harder. My wife says I don't know if that's possible, but one of these years I'm just I can already feel myself slowly pulling back the amount of work that I can accomplish. And so there's some advice if you're a young person. Work hard, work smart, build the big things, sooner than later is the best way to do it. But it's not too late. There is always time, and everything is possible. I'm going to share some money-saving tips on owning, constructing, and even maintaining a homestead. So, one piece of advice is, when I was looking for a homestead, so I had certain requirements. Nothing would have pleased me more to live 4 hours away from the next neighbor, but I came to terms with, no, you can't go build a cabin in the woods, in a provincial forest, because somebody will eventually find it. They'll burn down your cabin. There's no escape that way. So you have to be close to the economy for a variety of reasons. Whether my parents come live with us and they need some medical care in their old age, or when I get older, if hospitals and medical care is available, I want to be close to that. So I'm not building something far away and then have to move. Anyways, in a nutshell, I had a specific requirements, and I couldn't find them in an existing homestead. So there would be, in a development, and maybe they only had 2 acres or 6 acres, and that didn't give me farm or agriculture zoning, which is what I need for where I live, for the freedoms to do, build a chicken coop, goat barn, pig barn, fencing, hayland. You need a certain amount of land to have a closed homestead. So as I work towards a mostly closed homestead, and that means not a lot of outside inputs. So let's say you had 2 acres and some goats. So there's not enough land for them to pasture in the summertime, and you don't have any land to get hay off of for in the wintertime. So you're constantly buying hay from someone else, so it has inputs off of your land, or not on your land. So I had specific requirements. It's got to be a certain amount of land. It can't be too far away from the city, but it has to be close enough to the city. But what I wish I would have found, and maybe it would have been worth me waiting even longer in hopes that like a lottery ticket comes up and it something checked all these boxes and had existing buildings on it. So instead of me having to buy things or build everything from scratch, that would have been a big positive. So like an old farm site, but somebody had a big shop on it, or a chicken barn that somebody got out of or something, or just a steel Quonset. Like, it's a lot of work to build those things. It's astronomically expensive nowadays to build those things. So for example, a baby boomer-ish type age person that built a large shop 25, 30 years ago for $20,000, $30,000 doesn't realize that the replacement cost just on material for that same shop is likely $250,000. So when they list that property, they're going to be like, well, geez, I only built that shop for 20 grand. Like, I'm happy with the price that I'll get for it. I just want to sell out so I can move into the condo in the city. But they did that. They don't realize that it cost 10 or 15 times as much to build anything that they built 20 to 30 years ago. So I wish I could have found a place with buildings instead of buying the bare land. Like the amount of money and my time, like lost opportunity cost for me, because I built, 2 years on the shop, 1 year on the house, year and a half so far on the greenhouse, kind of part-time landscaping, infrastructure, all this stuff. But I guess I do know what I have now. So it's all, new buildings, very good windows, really good insulation. I built it myself. Everything's passive solar, situated the right way. I had that on a checklist, and it would be like winning a lottery if you found a place that checked off all these boxes. And over the last decade, I have seen like 1 or 2 that would have been like, oh man, if that had come up at the time, I should have just bought that. And then I could have moved in, done my alterations, and then just switched maintenance, and my time could have been spent on business instead of building all that from scratch. But here I am. I'm happy with what I got, and but that is one way you could save a whole lot of time, a whole lot of money. So You find some, a property that has buildings on it that you can maybe alter, because whoever's selling that place, at least in my real estate market where I live, the construction costs are more in material than what they're selling the entire property for. I've seen that multiple times. So, yeah, doing it yourself. So always been a do-it-yourselfer. You know, it's good to learn how to delegate and get team members, but to my core, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. If something is broke, I don't pick up the phone. I fix it myself, right? So that saves a whole lot of money. So if you have the skills to build things, or even just fix or renovate things, your labor is free, right? Every time currency changes hands, the government is involved in a transaction. So if you do something for yourself, that's free. So how can I explain this? If, let's say you make, just hypothetical, $100,000 a year at a job. Well, they're withholding income tax off your paycheck. They take whatever it is, over 30%, and you're left with, whatever you're left with. And then with those after-tax dollars, if you were to hire someone to build you a garage or a barn or something, then with your after income tax dollars, you have to pay somebody, and sales tax included on that labor and everything. So you're getting whacked. Every time currency changes hands, you get whacked. The government is involved with every transaction. So when you do something yourself, you're not just saving, the cost. It's like an exponential thing, because if you get the government out of multiple transactions, that's big time savings. So instead of a fishing trip or watching Netflix, you could use your evenings wisely and get some work done or maintenance done or learn some skills. So if you don't have the skills today, get them. So a platform like YouTube, you can literally type in a question and somebody has done a do-it-yourself or how-to video. So even for mechanics, if back in the day, you'd ask, an older person or somebody that you knew was good with cars, and they'd tell you over the phone or whatever. Now you type it in YouTube and watch a 5-minute video and it's done. You have that knowledge, and what a beautiful thing. So everybody should almost know how to do everything. Instead of the funny cat videos that the majority of people want to watch and have 30 million views, the mechanics videos barely have any views, right? But hashtag society. So if you're a young person and are going to take a job anyways, this piece of advice stuck with me. I forget who gave it to me, but take a job not only for a paycheck, but also for skills that are going to help you in your future. So if you're young and you need a job anyway, don't just take any nonchalant, mundane job where you're going to learn nothing. Take a job where you're going to learn construction skills, a trade, I don't know, Amazon business, really think about it. Don't just take some job just for the paycheck. If you're going to do it anyways, take it for the skills. So everyone has the power, all of the power of all of human knowledge on their phones. You can learn anything. When you do something yourself instead of hiring it out, that no currency changing hands is huge, but it's very fulfilling, and it makes you a better all-round person, a Renaissance type man. So when purchasing material, local marketplaces. So again, if somebody purchased something years ago and then they just your average dude and decide to sell it after, so they paid their sales tax on it when they purchased it, and then they used it, and you're buying it secondhand, then you're gonna buy it for cash, whatever. So they just they're cleaning up their stuff. You get huge discounts. I rarely buy something new. One thing I did buy new recently was a laser level. That is because it's kind of a precision instrument. I don't know if somebody dropped the laser level, but it's pretty rare I'll buy something new. So have a list for the things that you're looking for. Have it mentally, make yourself a list on a piece of paper. And I even figured out you put notifications in your phone for all the marketplaces. So both Facebook Marketplace seems to be where everybody went to. But people still use Kijiji is what we have here. And actually all the farmers and big equipment and people doing stuff and old dudes, they have it on Kijiji. So that's where I find the big deals. And it's funny I'm close to a city with, what does it have now? Hundreds of thousands of people. And this has happened to me on multiple occasions. The one time I phoned my gravel guy. So, hey, it's Dean calling. What's gravel running this year? Yeah, I know fuel's up. You still got the good stuff from the site we got it from last year. Awesome, I'll take 2 loads of that. Hang up the phone. Then I'll look on Kijiji and I'll see it. I saw an ad for insulation. And I clicked, the number was on, I clicked call, and it said calling and like gravel source. I'm like, what? My phone must have screwed up, so hang up. And then I look at the insulation ad and I click it again, and it's the guy I just talked to 5 minutes ago about the gravel, my gravel dude. He has the other thing that I need. So out of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, the amount of people that have things and do things is so minuscule that I can't believe it. In 5 minutes, I phoned the same guy twice. And that happened to me with, I bought a used ladder, and then it was a commercial door or door components or something. And it was a six months in between, but here's the address. That sounds familiar. Yeah, I know where that street is, and go there, and it's the same guy in the same house. And what the heck? Out of hundreds of thousands of people, you're telling me that, the things that I need because I'm doing something, there's only a handful of other people because there's only a handful of other people doing kind of things too. I thought that was interesting. But anyways, in Kijiji, you put notifications on. So if you're looking for insulation or rigid insulation, you put, so every day it'll do the search for you and notify you if something becomes available, or roof trusses or used tin cladding or metal roofing. And that's where I got huge deals, right? Especially the big stuff and the big building material where you need not just a truck, but even a trailer. Nobody wants to deal with that, right? So the bigger the item, if you're building a barn or something, or a large greenhouse, the bigger the item, the better the deal, and the less people are interested in it. That's what I found. So there's some huge savings buying used material, misordered material, things like that. And again, no sales tax usually, because the taxes have been paid the first go around, and it's just a private thing. Cash is still king, so I know most people don't use cash, but the people that don't use cash, they also don't do anything or have anything, so you don't usually interact with them when you're, buying equipment and building material and homestead stuff and, things you can use for production and everything. Like when you buy household trinkets and weird doodads that, lots of people like e-transfer only, but but cash is king for a lot of stuff, and I recommend keep cash alive. We essentially live in a cashless society, almost, or it's very close. So keeping cash alive is great, but the guys, cash is always king. Like, I have the cash out, and then another thing, if you've ever dealt with these marketplaces, so many people are difficult to deal with. Like, I absolutely hate selling things on marketplace. It's like, can you deliver? Would you take this amount? Can you hold it for me? Blah, blah, blah. You know, if you're a buyer and there's something you want and it's a good deal, it's like, hey, you don't put, hey, is this still available? Or, hey, I'm interested. You say, hi, my name's Dean. I've been looking for this. And if you have a question, keep it short. And I have a truck, a trailer. I'm pretty flexible with my time. When would work good for you? I have the cash out. Okay, I'm coming. And then even when I'm on the way, I'll send them a quick text. Like, we all have text message, and it's on my way, estimated 30 minutes, and then 5 minutes away or something if I'm at almost there, or just pulled up, and boom, done. They appreciate that. You know, their stuff they didn't want is gone. They got cash. You know, it's awesome. So don't be one of those pricks that, like, beat around the bush on marketplace, and nobody likes that. So yeah, don't waste anybody's time. Just make the deal and get it over with. Okay. So if you don't have a truck and trailer, I mean, that's just something in life you should have. So for saving money, I have, my truck's a 1991 Dodge D350. So it's what they call the first gen Cummins turbo diesel. So this is what is dubbed the million-mile engine. So when Cummins put their diesel engines in trucks, it was a tractor engine, essentially. And that engine is still to date, I would say, the best, most reliable engine in the world. My truck starts not plugged in when it's minus 35 outside, and the truck can sit outside for 3 weeks, and it just starts. It's the most powerful engine I've ever had. It's fairly good on fuel. It has tons of power. But the reason I did this is, so I actually flew 2 provinces away and to purchase this vehicle because I was second owner, low kilometers. It already had this dump box on that I wanted on it, and I bought it and drove it back to my thing, paid PST on it, and to license it here. And then I did almost all of the work myself. So I've replaced all the brakes, the brake lines, the shocks, the leaf springs, the rear end, all the bearings, all the seals, all the fluids. I did it all myself, and it took me some time, but I appreciate that I know how to do all that, because I know this truck is, I'm keeping it forever, right? But these old trucks, and mine's in very good shape, and I keep it that way too, and it's because I don't drive it very often. So for saving money, you know, I've known guys that they'll go buy it, or buy, nobody buys, but lease or finance or whatever they do, a new truck and full load, and they're so proud of it. And it's $900 a month, okay? And then, I don't know, $1,200 to $1,600 a year to put plates on it. And expensive on fuel. Like, most people, they're still driving trucks around, and what's with the short box trucks? Why are those popular? 5.5 and 6.5 foot boxes. Like, I've always had a long box, an 8 foot box, or a flat deck, because I use a truck to be a truck. So it's actually pretty rare, and it's almost a treat when I get to use my truck. So when I use my truck, it's always for hauling something, pulling a trailer. Yeah, and I take care of it. So the old antique truck's in good shape. If you take care of it, they appreciate in value every year. So you know how most people buy a new truck and it loses whatever half its value when you drive it off the lot, and the new trucks are plastic, computers on wheels. They're literally not going to last very long. Lots of them aren't even going to be collectors. That's my opinion, but my old truck goes up in value every year, and it's cheap to plate. It's diesel. Diesel lasts a long time. It has no computer in it. It has no tiny little wires or modules. It just works all the time. And so what we have for saving money is a hybrid car. So electric doesn't work because it's so cold where we are. Instead of it going 400 kilometers in the wintertime, it'll only go 100 kilometers because of the cold. So electric doesn't work, but this hybrid, the year is 2006, so this technology's been around for a long time. That car's fast. It's like 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That is, like, if I have a little shipment to go to Canada Post, or have to take a little shipment, just a few orders that day, or a small Amazon shipment to Amazon warehouses, I will use the car. If it's too much that the car can't handle it, we have an older van. So the one I have is a Mitsubishi, but Japanese import specialized van. It's also off-road type. It's called a Delica, or Mitsubishi Delica. It's right-hand drive, seats 8. One of the best off-road vehicles you can get, but also a family van, but also like a cargo type van. So if I have, more shipments to Canada Post that day that don't fit in the car, then I can take the van. And then the van can even pull a small trailer, whatever. If I need anything bigger than that, then I go to the truck. So my vehicles are very, very good. I keep them out of the sun for the most part. I keep them clean. I keep oil in there. I don't overuse them. So my truck, I'm probably going to pass down to my grandkids, unless the government makes me, destroy a farm truck, which is probably likely. Fuck. Excuse my French. But that's how you save money. So my van and truck are older, and the truck is actually farm truck. I only use it for farm out here. So it's very inexpensive to plate it. The van's very inexpensive compared to a new SUV or new van, and the car is even older now, and it's fairly inexpensive. So, for the cost of a plate on a brand new truck or Hummer or SUV or something, I can plate all 3 of my vehicles. And for fuel, we don't drive very much, so my vehicles are good. Certain ones that are old and are going to last essentially a lifetime unless an accident happens. And then I have the different stages of what I can use for commutes or hauling or whatever it is. So that's what I would recommend. And a trailer as well for hauling the big stuff that you buy off Marketplace, hauling things yourself as well. So one of my favorite things and the biggest things I've ever saved money on in all of my buildings that I've ever done is insulation off of commercial flat re-roofs. So especially if it's a government building, they won't be using that reusing that insulation, because money is no expense when it's taxpayer dollars. But or large companies too, they will not reuse insulation. So when a flat roofed building is re-roofed, what comes off of it is usually white polystyrene insulation or blue, suitable for moisture and even underground blue rigid insulation. Sometimes there'll be some water permeation in the insulation, so I will like dry it out a little bit, so it might lose a little bit of its R value there. Sometimes it's a bit dusty. Sometimes it even has some tar on it. I've had, but a lot of jobs that I've got it off of, it's just been mint condition. The tongue in the groove is perfect. It's barely dusty. There's no tar stuck to it. Like, just awesome. And literally next to free, like when you average. It's very, very inexpensive. So, like I said, in the amount of insulation that went in the greenhouse, I priced out everything I put in, and it was $60,000 if I was to buy it new retail at the time, and I got all my insulation for like 10 cents on the dollar. So instead of 60,000, it was 6. So that's pretty decent savings, I would say. But yeah, that is, even phone some roofing companies and ask them, because sometimes they don't put an ad out. Or sometimes, if I didn't go to that government building, it came off of a government building. If I didn't get that deal from them, drop off a trailer, they kind of put it on the trailer, I strapped it down, and I take it away. If I didn't do that, they would have to take that. It would go to the landfill, essentially. So that's how cheap you can get it. So if you phone a roofing company, you can ask them, hey, are you doing any flat roof jobs? Do you see any decent, like, blue rigid insulation or any rigid insulation? How about a cash deal, something like that? And you can get like building material that's always been my biggest savings. Metal, so metal cladding, agriculture tin, or I guess that's what I call it. I don't know if that's what it's called everywhere, but agriculture tin has a low profile. It is, I believe, 26 or 28 gauge, so not super heavy duty stuff. It's 3 feet wide and comes in. You can get it running any length that you want. So I get it from the Hutterites, not the colony by me, but they introduced me to somebody in another colony that they went into tin manufacturing. So they have the profile maker thing, and it's really inexpensive if you're doing any siding or roofing. So that's buying new. But a lot of times I've found deals where it's the best one I found was a misorder off of a commercial building. So it was just the wrong color or something. And then the contractor, he's had it stored at his acreage for years, and like brand new stuff, there's no holes in it, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I got that stuff for 5 cents on the dollar and made trips. It's like, if some deal comes up, I'm always ready to drop almost anything I'm doing, and I will commit to go procure those resources, because it's sometimes there's been things I've been looking for. I needed a rock bucket or a skeleton bucket for my skid steer for a year. I looked for a year. I was close to buying one new, but finally one popped up. I had something going on that day. I dropped it all, hopped in my truck, and I went and bought this thing for cash just to save, $1,000 or whatever it is. But yeah, you got to be flexible. So lots of times there's agriculture tin, an old pig barn or something, and somebody buys the property and it has these old decrepit buildings on, and yeah, just come give me whatever, $1 for a sheet if you take it off, and you can get deals there. So another one of my biggest savings when building anything is that cull lumber. So at my local bigger lumber yard, they sell a lot of lumber. So, and at the end of these piles, there'll be some crooked pieces or pieces that have a lot of bark on them. Maybe one end is a little bit split or whatever, but it's a big enough lumber yard that they'll bundle up their cull lumber specifically. So the cull lumber will say, 24 pieces of 16-foot 2x4s and cull on it, and then they'll put it in their cull pile, all bundled up, everything nice out back, or whatever it is, literally anything you want, like fence boards to 2x12s to 2x6s. But the most common thing I use when I do, agriculture buildings is for my purlins. So that goes flat on the walls or the roof, like to strap the trusses or the poles on the wall to strengthen the building and to screw the tin siding to, both the roof and the wall. So I will go through a pile of 2x4 16s and 2x6 16s. But that cull lumber is 50. Since I bought enough of it, they give it to me 50% off. The first time I bought a little bit, it was 40% off. But for certain things like the purlins, it doesn't matter if they're boomerangs. It doesn't matter if they're split a little bit. It's just to strengthen the building, like cross over the trusses and to screw the metal sheets down. So it doesn't really matter the shape. You just need lumber. So that's literally 50% savings on that. My little starter goat barn, I actually built that thing. The posts and the beams are all power poles. So used creosoted power poles from the utility company, and I got all those for a case of beer. So that was a pretty good deal. And the posts go down, I forget, 5-6 feet in the ground, every 8 feet, and a beam on it, and super strong building. I mean, it is what it is. It's just, it keeps all the weather out, and that's all I needed for that. Versus buying, I think a 6x6 outdoor wood treated post 16 feet long is like $80, maybe even $100. I forget. But it's expensive. So another thing that I really like buying is tractor and skid steer attachments. Skid steer in particular. So that rock bucket I mentioned, a skeleton bucket, that's just a bucket with slats in it instead of a smooth, bucket to hold something in. This'll just hold rocks that are, I think, 2.5 inches or 3 inches and bigger, and all the soil and everything goes through. So I use that for sorting firewood out of wood chips. If a tree trimming services makes a mess, I'll use that for picking up firewood after I split it, because you don't get any dirt in. You just shake it around, and then picking rocks and hauling rocks and stuff. But that bucket, it's just, I don't know what it weighs, let's say 500 pounds of just solid welded steel. Okay, and it's, what's the cost of one of those? Maybe $2,000 or $2,400 or something. I got mine for $1,500. That thing, every year from going forward, is going to be worth more money, more currency than what I paid into it. So if I bought it for $1,500 2 years ago, last year it was worth $1,600. This year I could probably sell it $1,750. Next year it'll be $2,000 because it's just steel. There's nothing to screw up on it. Skid steer attachments and some tractor attachments, it's just like a lifetime purchase. It's just steel, like thick steel welded in a certain way. It's just there forever and ever and appreciating in value, just like my truck, just like my van, just like skid steer attachments. The skid steer itself, eventually you're going to wear it out. That's the engine. That has a computer in it. Your little tractor, eventually you're going to wear out. But these buckets, these attachments, you buy it, have it for the rest of your life, and whenever you want to sell it, you sell it for a higher price. Some of these attachments, like the brush cutter on the skid steer, it's just huge steel, and it just has this hydraulic box on it that switches to just rotate this thing with two massive blades that are like, I don't know, better than 3/4 of an inch thick steel that whip around really fast. That's all it is. That thing, I recall looking at it a couple years ago, or saw a used one for sale, and the used one for sale was $1,000 more than I bought mine for new. So again, it's like investing, and you have the tool. So, but there's lots. If you see a deal, go buy it. If you see a used deal, right? So actually, skid steer, like. Even that. So when did I buy my skid steer? I forget. I've maybe had it 7 or 8 years. Yeah, probably 8 years now. And, I bought it for X amount. And then I put on 1,500 hours on it. So I bought it used. It had 1,000 hours on it. I put on 1,500 hours on, and then I do my regular maintenance, but it has a few hiccups. The glow plugs aren't working, whatever. I gotta dig into that in my spare time because I do everything myself, so I gotta do that myself too. But that skid steer appreciated in value after I used it for 1,500 hours, $10,000. Okay, I've seen used ones, the exact same one with more hours than mine has, for $10,000 more than I bought mine used for 8 years ago. So it's an investment as well when you do these things. Just for tools in general, some things you want to buy good used tools. So buying used, again, is much cheaper than new. So there's some old guys left that still live in their house, and they're going to decide to liquidate or whatever. They're good old tools that are actually built to last. And you can, buy them out. It helps them out when they're cleaning their stuff out, because lots of people's kids, what are you going to do with a tool, right? In this day and age. It's 2022. We invest in digital JPEGs. We don't build things. But again, make a list of the tools you need, and as they become available, go pick them up. So take your energy efficient or fuel efficient car, or if it's bigger, you take your van, or if it's a big tool or something, take the truck. So drop what you're doing, go get it. There's some things at the kind of discount tool places I'll buy whatever, cheap throwaway, needle nose pliers and things, knowing that, what I paid, $3 for these needle nose pliers. Well, right now I know I have like 20 sets of needle nose pliers. I just don't know where one is. So they're around, but they're kind of a throwaway tool. You can lose them in the field, certain things. Axes, for instance, I treated myself years ago. I had them special order in for me, Husqvarna axes, the whole set. So I got the maul, the forestry axe, the splitter, the carpentry hatchet, the regular hatchet. So these are all hickory handled, but the heads on them, they're a Swedish hand forged head on them. And some of the Swedish hand forged axe heads at specialty stores, the other brands that are hard to pronounce, but we're talking like $300-400 for a carpenter's hatchet. And at Husqvarna, they were quite a bit, maybe it was $80 or something. But I don't even like using them, or because I know this is so good, but when I use it, I'll like I take care of it, right? It's like a family heirloom that I can pass down to my boys. It's a really good tool. And then I will have the axes I use most are a Fisker's axe, and they're cheaper, but they're still good. So it's, if I forget it outside and on the chopping block or something, and it rains, or I'm not too worried about it. A little bit of rust, whatever. It's a tool, and I use it, and I'll eventually break it. But so I like having certain things that are for my life, and I can pass down to the kids even, and then other throwaway stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. Where else can I go with this? When you're building something too, it depends on, I like building things for longevity. So my best is on my house. What I did is I put 3/4 inch plywood on my roof instead of 3/8, and then 2 membranes on it, and then I put a heavier gauge standing seam metal roof on my house. So that is what I'd call 100+ year roof. So my house isn't very big, so it's whatever. It cost, I forget, 3 times as much as asphalt shingles or something like that. But I decided I'm young. This is where I plan on passing everything I own and the property down to my kids and things. I just thought about my life. So, and being in construction, when you put asphalt shingles on, they'll say that they have a 30-year lifespan or a 50-year lifespan or something. Well, that's BS. I would say 50, something that they say is going to last 50 years is going to last you 20. Something that they say is going to last 30 years is going to last you 12 to 15. And then the cheap 25-year shingles is going to last you 10 years. So every 10 years or 15 years, you're going to do a re-roof. So I don't know what the average house costs to re-roof now. Maybe $3,000-$4,000, something like that. That's today. And so 15 years from now, I'm not sure where, how much more the government's going to devalue the currency or where we're going to be, but it's going to be more. And then you have a bill in the future. So I decided I was young enough, and my plans was to put a 100-year roof on, so it's always waterproof. I never have to deal with it. Another thing is you put like thick walls, high energy efficient walls, good windows, lots of blow-in insulation in your attic right off the bat, so you're going to save on your heating and cooling for the rest of your days, and then all that's protected by the 100-year roof. So I built the house, and I don't have to worry about any of those expenses, really. It could, with that 3/4 inch plywood, it could probably hail grapefruits, and it'll dent the tin, like you'll see where a grapefruit hail hit, but it won't penetrate or won't ever damage. Lots of the really expensive houses in developments in between me and the city, they all have asphalt shingles on their fancy schmancy houses, but I don't know, every 5-ish years they'll have a windstorm and it'll blow some of their shingles off, and then they'll re-roof their house. So whatever toots your horn. But yeah. Metal roof as well. So if you put asphalt on your roof, you can't collect rainwater for drinking because it's the water's on asphalt. You don't really want to drink that. It's kind of contaminated. So a metal roof and a few tanks and some hoses, you can collect all that water, save yourself a little bit of hauling if that's what you do for your outside stuff or whatever. But in the greenhouse, I'm gonna do a gravity fed system. I'm gonna see how much pressure I get. If it's enough for drip lines, I might have to get a teeny tiny little 12-volt pump or something and pressurize it. But gravity fed, there's nothing to screw up. Rainwater's better for the plants, and it's free. So you buy the tanks, and I'm going to set it up properly, and then I have free water essentially for all my summers in the future. So city water, the fluoride stuff that's not you shouldn't be drinking. Everybody wants city water. So if you're thinking about resale, does it have city water? I'd really like city water. Okay, what I did is I witched a well, or I had my buddy come out, my older buddy, and he's like, when I did my well, I did multiple test holes. Each one was like $1,000 each test hole that we did. And they're like, this looks like a good spot. Did a test hole. It wasn't very good water, like not very many gallons per minute. Not a very good place. And my buddy said, oh, I'll come out there. He brought his 2 metal sticks out there, and I followed behind him with some marker flags. And his sticks kept crossing. And he's showing me how this works. So he found my water, and there was an aquifer line that I flagged out, like it went up this hill, and when we punched in that well, when we broke that aquifer, the water was coming up so fast we could barely get the well casing in fast enough. And then for 2 years of having that well, the water would flow over top of the well. Even in the wintertime, it didn't even freeze. It was just flowing out of the earth. So if you can get really good water, or witch yourself a well, that's free water from the earth. Now, again, it depends on your location, but so I'm an active farm with farmland agriculture zoning. So there is many, many different benefits and freedoms from the system when you're a food producer. So, for example, in these developments in between me and the city, the really expensive houses, they're not allowed to dig a well. So their water bills are, in the summertime, if they want to water their trees and grass, it's like $900+ a month for their water bill for the city water. And they're not allowed to dig a well. So they'll end up buying an old truck and hauling water from somewhere to water their trees and grass, because they're not allowed to have a well. Well, so my water's very good. It doesn't have any iron. It's very hard though. It's got a lot of it's a heavier water with a lot of calcium in it. Well, not a lot, but it's good. When we first did the well, also I did it in natural grassland pasture, so the nearest farmland was 200 yards away type of thing, and that water, when we tested it still had trace elements of glyphosate and nitrate in it. So it was close to baby safe, but not quite. But after years now, we tested it is baby safe drinking, no chemicals in there, just from using it a lot. But free water, my only cost after it's set up is electricity to pump it. And eventually when we get into solar one day or something like that, electricity is something I'll be able to produce. And then, so having a water bill the last decade not having a water bill was very nice. We did spend quite a bit on a water softener, and we do throughout the house where the appliances are. We have that water softener. So there is a cost with water softener salt, but compared to having a water bill from buying fluoride city water, and the city water doesn't even come in pressurized. You still have to it's a drip system. You still have to pressurize it at my location. But so everybody wants the fluoride city water because they think it's better. But I drink water straight from the well. I love the taste of it. It is just ice cold. It's heavier. It's full of minerals in there. Like, it's very, very good for you to drink good water if you can. So I would recommend a well. In the summertime, especially in the droughts, that well it never let us down. Pumping water up for all of our trees, so I'm never firing up the truck with a water tank to go haul water from somewhere else or whatever. Having water on site is a big plus. So when you're starting your homestead, you're gonna be planting trees and things like that. So you'll start by buying some that you like, or you'll talk to your neighbors what tree works good for our land out here, blah blah blah. So when you first buy a tree, my best example is the tree that it does the best out here and is my favorite tree is called the golden willow. So my wife bought one, or we bought one tree, maybe it was 3 feet high or something, and paid $40 for it from somewhere years ago, planted it, and then all of a sudden that tree the next year was 6 feet high and just beautiful. I'm like, wow, I like that tree. Then we learn about trees, and willow makes its own rooting hormone, so they're like the easiest thing to take cuttings off of and plant. So from that $40 tree, my wife the first time took like a dozen cuttings and stuck them in the ground and didn't even soak them in water, just the right time of year. The conditions were right. And now we have like 12 of these golden willows that are, 10, 12 feet high just in a few years. And they're just beautiful, even in the wintertime. But now I've done, in the last year-ish, like I've done 1,400 now cuttings. So took 1,400 cuttings off of this tree that all started with this $40 tree, and then I planted 1,400 of them. It's, you go from scarcity and spending money to an abundance and like producing a lot. So that's, saving money, and it takes time. Like you probably don't want to go out and buy like 8-foot tall spruce trees and hire somebody to plant them unless you're a multi-millionaire, because that would cost a lot of money. So you need to, get the little seedling and take care of it and hands on and save yourself money that way. But again, get back into strategic relocation type of thing. You don't want to be in the middle of nowhere. They're going to tax the fuel. Fuel is going to go up. You want to save money. You want to be outside of the main system, but also close enough to the main system that you can, participate with the private sector in the economy. So whether selling something, buying something, as well as being close enough, you can commit to these deals that I previously talked about. So if there's a deal that comes up in the evening, I'll be like, I'll take it. I have cash out. I'm coming. What's your address? And boom, go get it. Come back out. Procure the resource. Come back out. Right? If you live half an hour away or an hour away, or let alone longer, you're going to have to kind of plan your trip. It's going to cost whole whack of, it's not even worth the trip to get the thing you're buying used, because the amount you'll pay on fuel nowadays, it's not going to be worth the savings. There was this other program we did for years, and I'm going to get back into it, but we had 1 day a week at one grocery store. It was a food recycling program. It's called Loop, LOOP. You can kind of Google it and look it up, but it would be all the spoiled food from the day from that grocery store. Small farms would drive in to the grocery store, get it all for free, and take it back to the farms to feed, pigs or other animals. So to supplement the feed. And if I was further away from that opportunity, I wouldn't do it. You have to be close to it. So there's, again, it's just the private sector kind of had this opportunity. Somebody put that Loop program together. I was able to participate because I'm close enough to the economy. Firewood. I'm on good terms with all the tree trimming services, so I've hauled wood chips. They've hauled wood chips to me. I've picked up free firewood, like gnarly stuff, and then have a good log splitter out at my place. So I have a firewood thing that's free just for me hauling. I've even had them bring it out to me when their yard gets too much of it in. But all of this stuff could not happen if you're out in the boonies. So, I covered quite a few things. So mostly building material, vehicles, transportation. I guess I could get into just briefly multi-generational living. I could probably, I might do a whole podcast on this topic, but in Western society, it's really a funny thing. I love talking to new immigrants from all over the world when they come. The last guy I talked to, whether it's Philippines, China, India, I love learning about their culture because I always ask them, how do you like their Canadian food? And then laugh, because they live close to nature, and I like a lot of aspects of their culture. So, and the last guy I was talking to, he said, we don't have old folks' homes in India. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You guys have a better system. And he's like, yeah, our families are tight. Kids look after the grandparents when they get old, and the grandparents help with the grandkids. And I said, yeah, that's Western society so screwed up. I mean, and then I always say everywhere has its problems, but that is one thing Westerners massively screwed up. So all these other cultures, like the majority of people on the planet, they live with multi-generational structure, right? Whether it's a big house or it's a bunch of smaller houses in its own homestead type thing. And that just works. That saves a massive amount of money. So just for me personally, when I want to, when grandma and grandpa want to look after their grandkids for the day, I really appreciate that because that's when I can actually get something done. And they really love spending time with the grandkids, and the grandkids love it. But it's a 30-minute drive one way to exchange the children. So it's an hour worth of driving, and so it's both time, cost, all that stuff. Whereas if I was further along, and I've decided I'm going to be the first person in my family to make this happen. My dad said that I sounded like his dad, like my grandfather. And my grandfather, I was too young to have really high-end conversations with him, but I wish he was around I could talk to. But he had talked about setting up some multi-generational type living structure. He thought that was important, but he wasn't able to make it happen. And I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to keep my kids close. I'm going to hopefully get my parents, instead of them in an old folks home, have them out with me. That's not only better for everything, but saving money as well. Okay. Just the way you structure your family and your living accommodations. So, yeah, I covered it pretty good in a short amount of time, actually. So, okay, let's leave it at that. That's been over an hour. Okay. Again, let me know how you like this podcast format. Let me know if that information was beneficial for you. Thank you very much for watching. So I'll leave you with this. It's not too late. There's always time. Take one step at a time. Don't hesitate. Jump on things. Life is short. Get it done. The best time to plant an apple tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is today. Take care.